So let's take a look at all of these things in one spot now by viewing the representative forms here. Okay, so we have in the cal, remember in the cal stem, we do have a difference between active and stative verbs. Active and stative verbs, represent active verbs, actions, things that you can actually do. Stative verbs represent situations or states of being, emotional states, mental state, things like that. So we have different vowel patterns for these, or we can have different vowel patterns. So let's just take a look at Savav here as our first example of a cal active form. And here are some sample perfect forms. I'm not giving you all of the paradigm here. If you want that, go to the back of your Ross book. You'll see all the forms. But I've given you the root letters for these verbs so that you can compare the root letters with what happens when we see that monosyllable showing up for the verbal core. Savav and sav are both forms of the perfect 3ms. So here's that monosyllabicizing going on here. Savava and sabba. And notice that when I have the monosyllable form here and I have a vocalic ending, I want to keep the accent on the first root letter. Okay? So sabba, sabba. And notice that this dagesh forte gets to drop in. I couldn't put it here in the perfect 3ms, but now that I'm adding an inflection, that dagesh forte is going to drop in there to indicate that I really do have 3 root letters here. And then I have sabotha, sabotha. Here I have root 1, root 2 and 3, represented by the bet with its dot. There's my helping vowel and my consonantal ending. And then for the third common plural, savavu or sabu, sabu. If I do the monosyllable and the vocalic ending like this, I'm going to want to stress that first syllable. If I don't, stress goes toward the end for these vocalic endings. All right, let's move on to the imperfect here. Okay, so I have for the imperfect. Actually, here let me do this. Let's do the perfect forms here for the cal, and then we'll look at the rest. So kalal is to be light, and here is the stative verb. It tends to follow a monosyllabic pattern. So kal is he was light. Kala, she was light. Notice this is monosyllable, adding the vocalic ending. The lamed can't take the dagesh forte here. Gonna drop in here. Kala, and I keep that stress on the root 1 letter. Kalotha, kalotha, you were light. Kalotha. Now you see the doubling dot here, helping vowel, and then the consonantal ending. And they were light. Kalu, kalu, shurik's vocalic. Therefore, I get the accent on that first syllable. Okay? Now let's look at the imperfect forms for these geminate verbs in the cal. I have, first of all, for the imperfect of the strong verb, yasov. All right? So we have seen that when we have monosyllabicizing going on, as in the hollow verbs or here, that my imperfect prefix is going to be open, and that's the case, and the vowel is going to be long. That's a long A. Ya-sov. There is a dagesh that is hovering up there, wants to drop into the bet, can't do it because there's no ending here, no inflectional ending. Now, this second situation is similar to what we learned in the prior chapter with that last week verb. That last week verb was nuach. And if you remember, nuach follows 2 patterns. One where the prefix is open and one where the prefix is forming a closed syllable, and there is a mysterious dagesh forte that shows up in the nun, where it almost looks like a nun has assimilated. We get the same sort of thing here. Normally, what we're looking for is gemination and a dagesh forte happening in root 2, but in this case, there's a dagesh forte showing up in root 1. It's not because there's a nun that's mysteriously appeared here, but this is just trying to create a closed syllable, which is what normally happens with strong verbs in the cal imperfect. So, an alternate form of yasov is yisov, yisov, and because it's closed, and unaccented, it has to be a short vowel. That's why I don't have a long A here. Okay, so yasob. And then the third masculine plural, I'm adding the shurik to both of these. And so my dagesh forte will drop in. Yasobu and yasobu. Doing the same thing with both of those. And then finally, the 3FP, 2FP form is tsubena. Tsubena. Let's just talk about what happened here, okay? I'm going to use my my pen. What I really should have expected was a kametz, right? Ya, sov, ya, sobu, so ta, and I should have had a holum here and not a kibbutz, ta, so, be, na. Okay? Why do I have what I have? The reason is that the accent has moved over to the bet, and that has left this with the dagesh forte showing up. This is closed and unaccented. So I have a U-class vowel, but I can't have a long U-class vowel if this syllable is closed and unaccented. Cuss rule requires this to become a short vowel. And so what's happened is that this has gone from holum to kibbutz. Okay? Now, the tone is over here. This is pretonic. So what I have now is an open and proprotonic syllable. What happens to open proprotonic syllables? They reduce to vocal shava. And so that's why I have this vocal shava over here. And we're going to see this over and over again when I have stress shifting farther back. What was an open and long syllable now becomes vocal shava. Okay, and then if I have the pattern, the second alternate pattern here, where I'm closing the syllable with a dagesh forte in root 1, this form will not do the helping vowel. It will just do this, tisovna, tisovna. And so this is very similar to our regular strong verb. Okay, so tisovna. The WCI form, vayasov. You would have expected something like vayasov with a holum, but the stress retracts. It moves back a syllable, and then that leaves this closed and unaccented, and it's got to follow the cuss rule. And so the long holum, which is U-class, has to become a short U-class vowel, and in this case, it becomes a kametz ketuf. So that is what we have. This is a kametz ketuf here. This is the long A, okay? So vayasov, vayasov. The imperative, form the imperative by taking the imperfect and chopping off the head. So if yasov is the imperfect, chop off the prefix and I'm left with sov, sov. 2MP, tell a group of people to go around something, sobu, sobu. And then if I want to tell a group of women, it's subena, subena. It would have been sobena with a holum, but because the accent has moved over, this is closed and unaccented. We've got to reduce that to a short vowel because of the cuss rule, subena. Okay? We'll just go ahead and fill this out here. The participle is actually rather normal here for the active verb. Sovev, right? Remember the holum sere calactive participle form. Sovev. Sovava. For the infinitive construct, it's sov. But if I want to add a pronominal suffix to it, like the first common singular pronominal suffix, sov becomes subi. Subi. What's going on here? Let's play with this, okay? I add a kyrikiode for a first common singular pronoun. Because I'm adding an inflection here, the dagesh forte that can't be put here when it's all by itself is now going to drop in. The accent is going to move further back, and that's going to leave this syllable with its dagesh forte. Remember, dagesh fortes always close the syllable, and so the cuss rule requires a short vowel, and that's why it's gone to a short U-class vowel, because we had a long U-class vowel over here. Okay? So that is the deal there. Sov, the act of going around, and then subi, my act of going around. And then the infinitive absolute is savov, the long A, holum vav pattern. That is normal. We saw that with pakad, pa code. All right, let's take a look here at the imperfect of kalal. Okay? The imperfect is ye call. Now here, we would have liked to have seen a commence here. But in the stative verb pattern, it's not unusual to find an I-class vowel under the prefix and then an A-class vowel for the theme vowel. Remember, kaved became yichbad with that A vowel. Okay, U-class vowel for active verbs in the cal imperfect. A-class vowel usually for stative verbs in the cal imperfect. So ye call, that is open and long, and there is a dagesh forte that wants to drop in there to indicate that we really are supposed to have two lameds here. And so when I add the third masculine plural shurik to the prefix pattern, ye call becomes ye kalu, then my dagesh forte drops in the lamed. And since this is vocalic, remember I want to try to stress root 1, ye kalu, ye kalu. When I add the consonantal ending, it becomes tukalena, tukalena. What's happened here? It should have been, actually not a kametz. I was about to write a kametz here. It should have been sere te kalena. And because the accent has moved over here, this was left in an open proprotonic situation, and that's why it's reduced to a vocal shava. Okay? So we have to put that vocal shava there. All right. Now, the imperative, again, chop off the prefix head of the imperfect, ye call, and I'm left with call. So there you go. There's your imperative, call. 2MP, kalu. And in this situation, for the 2FP, this follows the pattern without the helping vowel, and it's just kalna. Kalna. So there you're commanding a group of women to be light. I don't know how you could ever command people to be light, but I guess you could. Okay, the participle is call, and then for the feminine singular, it's kala, kala. Now this is different from the cal perfect 3FS, which is kala, kala, with the accent on the first syllable. Here the participle kala takes the accent on the commence. Remember, we could make masculine plural and feminine plural forms of these participles, kalim, kalot. The infinitive construct, here I'm just giving you the basic form without the suffix on the rest of these, just because I didn't want to be too cumbersome here. But kol is the act or state of being light, and then the infinitive absolute in the cal, kalol, ao, just like pakud and savov. So that's very normal there. Now, going back to the Nifal here, let's look at savav as an example for our Nifal stem. So, in the perfect, look at what I have. I have nasav, nasav. What do I see in the Nifal perfect? I've got my characteristic Nifal noon. Normally in the strong verb, the noon would close the syllable with root 1. Here, because I've got a monosyllable for my verbal core, the prefix has nothing to attach to, and so I'm going to have a long and open vowel here. The Nifal's perfect theme vowel is a pathak, and I've got that, so that's what I'd expect to see. So nasav, there is a dagesh forte hiding, waiting to drop in. When I add inflectional endings, I will see that bet show up. As in the third feminine singular of the Nifal perfect, nasav becomes nasaba, nasaba. With my vocalic endings, and I have the monosyllable here, I'm always going to try to stress root 1. Nasaba, nasaba. Dagesh forte indicates roots 2 and 3. 2MS, here's my consonantal ending, nusabotha. What happened here? The long A is now open and proprotonic because my stress is not on root 1, but it's moved over to root 2. When that happens, this open proprotonic syllable reduces the vocal shava. So everything else is explicable. We've already seen the helping vowel before the consonantal ending. Nasabota. For the third common plural, nasabu, nasabu. Here, because the stress is on samic, this is not open and proprotonic, it's just open and pretonic. It gets to stay long there. All right, the imperfect forms and those based on the imperfect. Here I have yisav, yisav. If you remember, in the Nifal imperfect, it's characterized by, in the strong verb, a prefix with an I-class vowel and a doubling dot in root 1. Yipaked, yipaked. Remember that? Well, this is similar. I've still got my yod and the I-class vowel and the doubling dot, but I don't have 2 syllables. I just have 1. So I don't get to see the full strong verb pattern here. So this is yisav. And for 3MP, I'm just adding a vocalic ending here. Yisabu, my dagesh forte that I couldn't put here, gets to drop in with that inflectional ending. Yisabu. So he will and they will double back. And then the 2FP, 3FP, tisabena, tisabena. I-class vowel, doubling down in root 1, and then my theme vowel is the pathak, doubling dot, and then the helping vowel before the na. The imperative is hisav. Remember, Nifal imperatives get a prefix hey, and the vowel pattern, the rest of the vowel pattern looks like the regular old imperfect in the Nifal. So if my Nifal imperfect is yisav, like this, just change the yod out for a hey, and I've got the imperative to ms. Okay? So hisav is a command to a man. Hisabu is a command to a group of men, second masculine plural. And then hisabena is a command to a group of women. Notice that I'm keeping the same formation here. The only difference is that na is a consonantal ending as opposed to a vocalic ending, and so I need that helping vowel, that segul yod helping vowel. The participle is nasav. Okay, just as in the Nifal participle of the strong verb, I have my characteristic Nifal nun here, and if you also remember, the Nifal participle has a kametz for its theme vowel, and that does make it different from the Nifal perfect, which has a pathak for its theme vowel. Okay, that's true of the strong verb in the Nifal. It's true here. This kametz is not just long. It is understood in the Nifal participle to be irreducibly long. Okay, but there's one problem here now. I have a dagesh forte that wants to jump into my bet. And when I add my kametz hey for the feminine singular participle, the dagesh forte is going to drop in there. And because it does, this is now closed and unaccented. And because of that, the cus rule overrides the irreducibly long a rule. And so it is going to shorten to a pathak. Nisaba. And because this is open and propertonic, it reduces the vocal shava. The infinitive is hisav, which is identical to the imperative. And then the infinitive absolute, hisov. Hisov. You see the holum vav present here, but the hey prefix with its doubling dot, characteristic of the front end.